Hello, hello. Welcome to the Eddie Conversation Podcast. My name is Eddie Vigil, and I am your host. I am a filmmaker living in Los Angeles, California. This is episode number 72. Joining me today is Jonathan Munoz.
Yes.
Man, I flush.
Very good, very good. No worries.
Yes.
But I'm glad to be here. Thank you for inviting me on.
For sure. For sure. Thanks for having me in your space. This is a lovely area that we're in today, people.
Yeah, very nice.
Do you want to? It's moody. It's loungy, and it's chill. All right. So to talk about you really quick, brief foundational stuff. You are a composer.
That's correct. Composer. I also do YouTube. I sell digital courses. I sell small ebooks for music theory for those who want to just learn the fundamentals. And I also, just try to help people as much as possible in any sort of questions they may have for, business, a consultation. I do that on the side as well. But yeah, I'm glad to finally be in Los Angeles too. It's been a few that I've been trying to kind of come over here, but glad to finally be here. Fresh to the city, about 4 months in, I think.
Yes, congratulations on the move.
Thank you.
Yeah, we'll jump into all that for sure. Okay, so when you talk, I don't know, just to clarify the consultation, you're talking about music, the music world specifically, or?
Sure. So I do consultation in 4 different categories. So I do consultation on the programs that we use to compose music for film. I do consultation for just music business, any questions that you may have, contracts, royalties, anything like that. I do consultations for people who are doing music theory. So like if you need help with any kind of homework or whatever, I can kind of guide you along and sort of tell you how things work as best as I can, of course. And then the other one, I quite don't remember what the 4th one is. I literally just looked at it yesterday, but yeah, I could leave all the links or any kind of questions for later on.
Sounds great. Okay, copy you. All right, so let's see where to start, because I know we our history is we met for coffee recently enough. Like you said, you're new to the town, and we connected and had a little intro chat. So we may be rehashing some of that for the folk at home listening. So I'm trying to figure out on. Okay, we'll jump into. I have lots I want to talk about. Where to start? So I'm always debating on whether or not to start with Jonathan present day or from the beginning and moving a little bit through time, a little bit of a timeline-esque walkthrough of life.
Sure.
What are you feeling?
I guess we can kind of cover that. That way, it kind of serves as the foundation.
Okay.
Yeah.
Foundation building, the history.
In the making.
Yes. All right. Yeah. So let's hear about the background, because I've read up, of course, on your story. We've talked before, but how, I guess specifically talking about the music side of you and the composer side of you and the origins of that.
Yeah. So I was born in New Brunswick, New Jersey, but I didn't really start my musical journey till I moved to Miami in 2002. And then it took a little bit. So I started music like around 8 years old, 8 turning 9. And I started playing guitar, even though my mother was putting me in music school because I like to drum. So like I would grab pencils and just play anywhere I could find. I'd also leave like bruise marks on her leg sometimes because I would just sit next to her and like, just kind of tap whatever I heard. So she kind of picked up on that and she was like, hey, let's put you in a music school. I was like, okay, great. And the turning point for me for picking guitar over percussion or drums was actually at the moment we were filling out the forms. There was a guitar solo happening in the band room, and I was like, whoa, what is that sound? And when I saw it was a guitar, I was like, hey, Mom, put guitar instead. And she was like, are you sure? I was like, yeah, do it. and that was history. You know,
Yeah.
I kind of just chose guitar, went that route, and then I took a few lessons, and from there, it kind of just I did guitar lessons there for about maybe 8 years or so.
So you did end up enjoying the guitar despite the last minute pivot.
Yes, absolutely. I enjoyed it and I excelled at it pretty quick. I believe at the age of 11, I was doing like even teacher substitutions with my teacher because sometimes he would go out and like gig or have other events and he wouldn't be there for a day. And he'd just be like, hey, do you mind like substituting for the students at that age? And I was like, hey, yeah, sure, why not? So I would sit there sometimes with students who were older than me, and they'd look at me like, "Oh, who's this little guy, kind of just like teaching on the side?" And I was just like, "Yeah, this is what I could do, and I could show you how to do all this." And a bit of a strange situation, but it happened, and I had a few
Wow.
kids that I was teaching at that age too.
So a little bit of I don't feels kind of prodigy-esque over here, you know? But that no, it's okay. So how just to pause there on a sec for a sec. How was it so you because I know knowing the thing and teaching the thing are two different skills. How are you developing the teaching aspect, or how did you approach that at such a young age there?
Sure. So I guess you could say that is maybe a natural gift of mine where I'm able to teach something that I understand well. It's just the way that I communicate the ideas. It seems to, be a pretty good way of explaining things and also teaching people things. And I noticed at a very young age that I could really grab any topic I was familiar with and explain it to you in a way where like you'd be like, oh wow, that actually makes some sense. So I picked up on it really quick, and I started doing that with my guitar teaching essentially. It grew into something bigger eventually, but we can get to that a little bit later. But um, yeah, so that's how it kind of all started. I just realized that I not only had a good way of explaining things, but at the same time I enjoyed seeing the reactions of people when they were like, "Oh my God, I didn't even know that." You
Right,
explained it
right.
really well. So
Okay, all right. So continuing from the guitar lessons and realizing that there's some natural gifts there, getting that really quickly. Where did that take you?
sure. So that was honestly, again, very weird. I was in elementary school still, I think 4th or 5th grade or something like that. But the moment I went into middle school is I started to learn how to play trumpet. So I played in an orchestra, kind of just getting my hands, and feet, in this new position in orchestra. I was a guitar player playing rock, and now I'm playing classical music.
Hmm.
And it was weird for me because I don't come from that kind of family who listens to classical music. My parents are Hispanic, so I listen to a lot of Latino music. So when I came into this classical world, I was kind of like, it's pretty cool, and I'm playing the trumpet. We also played some more modern pieces because it's a middle school band, so you don't expect kids to like play Mozart
Right,
symphony.
you want some,
Some fun in
yeah,
there.
yeah, yeah.
So I did that for 8 years because I actually ran it all the way up through high school, and I auditioned for the New World School of the Arts in Miami. So you can only audition to that school, and out of thousands of applications, not just here in the states but around the world, because it's a pretty well known high school.
Mm-hmm.
Um, they choose around, I would say, like 500 to 700 kids for each school
Yeah, for the new
semester.
freshman class or
Yeah.
whatever. Yeah,
So I did that, and I got in my freshman year as a trumpet player,
yeah, yeah.
actually. So
Okay, all right. So, okay, very cool. Congratulations
thank you,
again.
thank you.
How? What does? Because I'm big on process. So how did where did what could how? There's lots of things to talk about here.
Absolutely.
I want to hear about the similarities in the transition from guitar into trumpet, and then also more about this like application process and how you get selected into such a school and yeah, how all that
Sure.
works. But
Yeah, so I never really stopped playing guitar in between all of that. Please feel free to ask me about specifics because I'm kind of just
no,
kind of
for
going
sure,
through
for
it.
sure.
But so yeah, I never really stopped playing guitar. I kept playing guitar because the thing is, I would do gigs. I would do wedding gigs. I would do like mansion parties, playing classical guitar at that age. I would do, just regular like bar gigs
Yeah.
too.
Yeah,
Um,
I guess I'm specifying because not that you left the guitar, but
mhm.
because it's almost just picking up and again like thinking about drums into guitar, and then you've been doing your thing with the guitar for a while.
Yes,
Now it's a
instrument.
whole new
Yeah,
world of sound and music,
sure.
and then jumping right into that and kind of if it was an easy handoff or an easy thing to pick up new. And yeah, I guess yeah. Oh,
Yeah, yeah, no worries. So yeah, it's. I know it may seem like it's like so like far stretched, like oh, drum, guitar, trumpet. To me, it kind of always felt like the same, because at the end of the day, I was still making music. So the handoff was well, trumpet has its learning curve because now you're playing with your lips
yeah, and
and a
breath
certain
control. There's
technique.
lots of yeah.
Yeah, there was a lot going on. So it was pretty tough picking up the trumpet at first, but I'm the kind of person that when I do something, I want to do it great. So I would spend hours, practicing and making sure that I have the right technique and all that stuff. But really, I started to develop my skills was when I was about to audition for high school, where actually the band director from that high school reached out to my parents to go have some coffee at a Starbucks to just talk about like, hey, we want your son to audition for the school. I've never heard of this school prior to that, so it was kind of like, oh, I feel like I'm getting scouted here, and
Yeah, that's
the
cool.
reality is I was. So we went to this meeting, and the band director explained to my parents all of the things the school had to offer, and we're talking about a really advanced set of musicians, students who are my age, and you hear them playing. It's amazing. It's amazing to kind of see all of that stuff. But we had that conversation, and it's the audition process was kind of like any like if you were going to college too for a musician, and essentially it's like you got to prepare your scales, you got to prepare a couple pieces. They're gonna ask you maybe to improvise a little bit just to kind of see where your creative chops are. Um, there's also some like questions because they also want to see what kind of person you are, kind of like your attitude, what are your goals, things like that. And essentially, they gave us the whole rundown, and I was in eighth grade at the time, so I only had a few months to really gather everything together. Again, I didn't really plan on going to the school, I didn't even know it existed. So if I knew that, I probably would have planned a lot earlier, but it kind of just happened, so
I
I
mean,
kind of rolled with
you're
it.
you're a kid over here. Let's come on now, some slack. Cause I know, okay, cause I so you got scouted for your trumpet playing, not cause again like before you had said that I was like I wonder why you applied through the trumpet route versus like the guitar route, or if it was on like I don't know how.
Yeah, let me clear that up.
Yeah,
So the way it worked was my guitar schooling was an external school. It
right,
was it was extracurricular. So that had nothing to do with my academic studies. I played trumpet in the academic grade school and then guitar in my extra time.
right,
So that's how I was able to kind of do the two together. So when the band director reached out to me, he came to the school, the middle school, and saw me playing trumpet.
right.
So that's why it was like, hey, trumpet. Even though I did audition for guitar, I did audition for jazz guitar. I didn't end up getting in for jazz guitar because jazz wasn't my forte at that time. But I did end up playing some of their musicals on guitar because made friends with the music director, and the music director said, "Hey, you play guitar?" I'm like, "Yeah." So
Okay, all right. So it came,
it came along.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Nice. All right, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Okay.
Sorry, it's just a lot of detail in
No,
between,
for
but
sure. Because I think like because the world that I have lived in for a while is like more in film. So I'm thinking about I hear about like actors going through and getting accepted into certain schools and stuff. You prepare a monologue, you prepare different pieces to showcase. Um, So it sounds, yeah, similar to, yeah, you're presenting your skills in that vein. I guess uh, I'm assuming it's like a multi-step whole process, like where, because there's no way they can, listen to so many pieces from so many students. So just like, but yeah,
Yeah, so the way that they kind of went through the audition process was I'm not sure the exact number of students that auditioned at that time, but I
mm,
know that when I went to go audition at New World, there was a line of kids, and you sign up at the table up front, put your name, hi, I'm Jonathan, the standard audition process, and then they take you up the elevator to this room where you're by yourself with three people just standing there like looking at you, so the pressure's on. And how exactly they gauge it, I've never really asked. So that'd be interesting to actually, because I'm actually still friends with some of the teachers and
yeah,
professors
yeah.
there. So I might actually go back and just be like, hey, how'd you vet, or how do you vet
Yeah, or
people
hey,
here?
can I be a part of the vetting process
Yeah.
some point? I want to be the guy in the room.
That's cool. So I did that, and they just had like I guess like a checklist as they were going through, and that's how
Sure.
they figured out, who would get in, or not be accepted at the time. You could also audition for your sophomore year too. So if people didn't get in their freshman year, you have an opportunity to audition for 10th grade. So I think that's pretty cool. Gives a second chance to people who didn't get in the first time
Yeah,
or weren't prepared or
yeah.
whatever the
More
case may
time to
be.
sharpen those skills.
Absolutely.
Very cool. Okay, so you got accepted. You got the big news. How was that received? Do you recall like what that felt like getting the news and how that I don't know how the family reacted, what the new ambitions and goals in life became? Like how did that affect you?
Sure.
Okay.
So, if I'm not mistaken, I believe it was my parents. It was my father who got the email. And he was like, "Hey, check out this email." I think he forwarded it to my email, and he was like, "Hey, check this out." And I look at it, and it's like, "Hey, congratulations! You've entered the school." Obviously, I freaked because I was like, first of all, I've never auditioned for anything in my life at that time. I just thought it was unreal that I was able to get into this program. I never really thought much of. I've been a very reserved kind of person, or I still kind of am.
Hmm.
So like, I don't really talk about like skill level, skill gap, or any kind of things like that. I just kind of go with the flow, and if you play music and I play music, we connect. That's pretty much it. I don't really
Sure.
see it as like I'm a pro, or you're. It doesn't really
Yeah, it's like
fit
it's
in
like,
my.
oh, you didn't get accepted into the school. Yeah, we can't hang out anymore. Sorry. Sorry about that. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah, I've never been that kind of person. And it just felt unreal because now I'm like, okay, I got to step up my game now because I don't know who's in there, and the seniors who were there, I was only thinking about like they must be really freaking good. So I just kind of got nervous. It was a little bit intimidating. I'm not gonna lie. I had to go purchase a trumpet for the first time, so I was like, okay, I'm buying a trumpet now. It's mine. Now I really got to take it serious. And as soon as I got it, right before school started, I was kind of like still freaking out because we had all of our academic stuff in the morning, and then for this high school, we actually had an extra hour because of the arts component. So from 1 to 3:45 was the arts component, and that's when we first walked into the band room, and I see all these kids, and the first thing I hear when I walk in there is like just the people on the trumpet, like I'm just like, oh my god, what did I get myself into? So it was quite intimidating, but exciting at the same time because now I knew that I needed to step up to prove, not only to myself but also to everyone that I could be trusted as a musician in the room.
Awesome. I was getting visions of Whiplash over here. Is my
It's I would say it's pretty similar because
hmm
I think I remember it was it wasn't within the first week, but I think it was like the second or third day. The band director called me out to play a part, and I was like, "Oh God!" I knew this moment would come, but I didn't think it'd be this soon. So, kind of like a scene of Whiplash, where like you're getting all the eyes or the attention, and the band director's just looking at you, and you got to play your part. The fingers are kind of shaking a little bit, but
Yeah,
we got through it, and
it's like my worst nightmare over here. All the eyeballs. Perform.
yes.
Oh.
It
Ooh.
was a lot of pressure, but got through it. Made really good friends. I made friends instantly with the trumpet section. They were all so cool. We would hang out for lunch, and then we'd walk together to the arts building, things like that.
So very clicky. Yeah, I
Very
gotcha.
clicky. Yeah, it was super cool. It was
Yeah.
a really
What
great
are
group of
the?
kids.
I don't know. I want to hear how. I'm not familiar with the band dynamics. How can you remind? Is it in terms of the clickiness? This is more for like if I end up writing a scenario like that. Who, uh, who is it? Is it kind of the same across the board, no matter what band room you enter? Is like the trumpets aren't a fan of the like
The other
is
sections.
yeah. How do those dynamics work?
So, if honestly, for a school setting, it's pretty because the thing is these kids are here because they're here for a reason. They auditioned.
Sure.
Everyone in that room
Yeah.
auditioned. So the ego really wasn't there, especially in the band room, because I really felt that everybody was there to like really learn. And if
So
they did feel some type of way, I have no idea because none of them really showed it.
okay.
So everybody was very friendly. Everybody sees the freshman. They're like, "Hey, I'm Joe, or I'm Paul, Joel, or whatever."
Yeah.
And everybody's, you're shaking hands with everyone, and everybody was just so nice. I can't really recall an experience where like I felt like it's like, "Hey, you're the trumpet player."
Yeah. Okay. Very very positive team. Because yeah, at the end of the day, everybody's working together on the piece. It takes all the parts to make it work. So
Absolutely,
yeah.
and also to mention, if you do perform poorly or kind of go into this ego trip, you could get booted out of the school at any point. So everybody made sure to keep a very high standard of not only acting but grades and all that stuff because they can kick you out.
Mm-hmm. Gotcha.
Yeah.
Cool. Yeah. Yeah. Great. Lovely.
Yes, it was a great time. I did my 4 years there.
Mm-hmm.
The last 2 years, I played also with the orchestra. So the last 2 years, I was appointed principal trumpet for the orchestra. So that was really cool. So most of the pieces that we would play in the orchestra, I'd get all the cool, trumpet solo lines, things like that. It'd be a lot of pressure too, because our conductor, he's a guy with a lot of experience. Older, he's Russian. He has that orchestral spirit with him. So he was very, very strict on how things were supposed to sound and that you need to practice. And if you didn't do well, like he wouldn't, mind calling you out within the other 50 players that were there. He'd single you out and be like, hey, play the part really quick. And then when you didn't play it right, he'd be like, why didn't you play it right? You got to practice. He's really just honing in on perfection. All I could say though, the performances were spot on. All the performances. So I really I enjoyed the discipline. It wasn't overboard. It wasn't anything like, oh, I don't want to be here anymore. But it was definitely very intense. Uh, Being that young, and then being in high school, and then having this strong discipline. But it whipped everyone into shape. So I think
Yeah.
it worked.
Yeah. Yeah. It seems like you are no stranger to those pressure cooker situations. Even from even yeah, it seems like that. Yeah. Already it's a theme in your stories. In your
Absolutely.
yeah.
And before that, obviously I have performance experience. So when I played guitar at the other school, not really academic schools, extracurricular, but when I played guitar, I would do shows with them too. So I'd be playing in front of my first concert was in front of like 400 people, and I had a guitar solo. So I was really freaking out because I've never performed in front of everyone. It was the first time I performed with guitar and I'm just learning the instrument. And, I begged and pleaded for that solo because I really wanted to play it. And I proved to the band director at the time.
Yeah.
The first concert was 400 people. So I'm sitting there like, what if I mess up?
Right. Yeah, but you put yourself in that situation. So like
Yeah.
you were seeking that moment to
Yeah, as a kid, you don't really think of it that way.
Okay.
You're just thinking like, I want the solo, but when
Oh, all
reality
right.
kicked in, you're like, how do I
Okay,
get through
okay.
this? But it worked. I did it. So I
Yeah, yeah,
can't.
yeah, yeah. You were there and you had to do it.
There was
Kind
no
of.
turning back at that point.
Yeah, yeah. All right, cool. All right. So, high school, you okay, so we talked about that. Was there anything left in that time that we should touch on? Like, I don't know if there's any maybe potential highlights on where you I don't know how like if you guys toured different venues or got to play at a certain space like in front of the president or like I don't know
Sure. So
how that
it's great that you actually mentioned that because I did actually play for the Prince of Spain,
Oh
I believe
wow,
it was.
okay.
We were doing the book fair inauguration in Miami, which is like this major thing. I had no idea about it. Sorry, I'm not too much of a book person like that. I do read self like development books, but not really like books like that.
Sure.
But anyways, we were doing the inauguration, and the prince and princess of Spain, or I'm not sure what the correct terminology is. I'm sorry, but they were there, and we played from the composer La Cuona. Very very nice piece. I'm not familiar, or I don't really remember which piece exactly, but I got to play a solo for them too. So that was a really big highlight for me as a trumpet player to be able to do that. And the school is the one that offered me that opportunity to do it. So that was definitely a huge highlight for just professionally. Just kind
Yeah.
of think back and be like, oh man, I actually performed for them. It's unreal.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
was 15, 14, 15.
Okay, so when did you know they were going to be there? How did that
So we were told at the beginning of the semester or the school year that we were going to do this big event because that was already planned for. Obviously, there's a lot more going on than just the concert portion.
Yeah, yeah.
So we did know well in advance what we were going to do. And everybody just told me to buckle up because you're on the spot here because you got to play the solo. I think it was my junior year, and I was like, man, this is going to be intense.
Yeah, yeah.
Full room, and then you have them sitting front row, and but yeah, it was great experience. Learned a lot, had fun. Everybody was having fun. They enjoyed it. Um, so yeah, we did tour also a lot the east coast of Florida. So we did everything from like Homestead all the way up to Jacksonville. We would do
Mhm.
like different venues for competition stuff because there's a competition called like FBA or MPA where you would go in, they'd give your school a rating based on how well you
Yeah, yeah,
performed,
yeah.
and that's how you gauge the arts program for all the people who are in the band stuff in high school and middle school. So we did theaters like the Gusman Theater, which is a big theater in Miami. We did the Adrian R Center, which is a big theater again in downtown Miami. We performed in on live TV actually up in Jacksonville. I forgot what college we went to. It was a competition, but it was also live on TV.
Hmm.
And we were competing at a college level. That's how high of a level this school their
Wow.
students are. So we did
Ooh.
that too, which was exciting and again nerve wracking. All these experiences were kind of like nerve wracking because we're talking about really big things and it just happens so fast. I mean, 4 years is not a long time. So like when you start a school year and you have all these performances lined up, they'd have all their performances lined up because that's what the school does. But it's just surreal that we're just kind of like, okay, you're gonna perform for this, or you're gonna do this now, and we're just sitting there like, how much time do we have to prepare? We got like 2 months. Okay, and then on top of that, do like the homework for the regular
Right, right.
academic stuff. It was a lot going on at that time. I'm not gonna say it was all easy. I remember taking 15-minute power naps because I'd only have like an hour or two to sleep. Sometimes I get home at 1 in the morning because of performances. Have to do projects, fall asleep at 4 to wake up at 5 or something like that. Take
Oh
a.
no, you were one of those.
I was. I
Probably,
was.
I mean, oh. Okay, you got it done though.
It did. I did. I look back and I'm like, man.
That's crazy.
How do you do it?
I was never I was never one of those. No, I was like, I'm sleeping, and
Yeah, it was very tempting, but a part of me always kept me awake to do it. I was excited, or I still am. I'm excited to do these things. It's
well, I was thinking more about the additional school work that you had to do on top of the
Well, I
passion
mean, you
work.
have the pressure of them kicking you out.
Sure,
So
sure.
I'm like, mm-mm,
Yeah,
I don't want to get
that's
kicked
fear.
out.
That's fear based. That's
Yeah.
not excitement. But regardless, yeah, okay, that's crazy. But I'm sure it wasn't like that all the time. It was kind of at those at the peak
Exactly.
prep and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah,
Yeah,
midterms, finals. Well, at that time they had like EOC, like end of course exams, things like
yeah,
that.
yeah.
But yeah, it wasn't all the time. I would say that, I would a good healthy time frame would be like every 3 weeks maybe.
Hmm.
It'd be something like intense coming
It's
up.
crazy.
But then again, you know what you sign up for. It is an art school,
Hmm.
and there's a lot of people competing to get into the school. So I wouldn't expect anything less. And thinking back now from an adult perspective,
Yeah.
you really want to train these kids to feel the pressures of almost the real world, because the real world is way harder than
Hmm.
what the school
Hmm.
kind of offered.
Yeah.
So I think as a musician, getting taught that young and seeing that you really need to step up your game and keep your chops up and work and not let things slip by was one of the things that they were teaching at that school
Yeah.
as well.
Yeah. That heavy, that hard discipline there.
Yeah.
Okay, so what is the uh, I don't know if the proper word is expectation, but if for the kids that are going to this high school, where's the mindset on like after high school? Where are people hoping they're going, and where do kids from the school normally end up going, and based on like how you were thinking about your own trajectory coming out. Before we get to what you actually did, what were the thoughts while you were there? Yeah.
Sure. So, I'll be honest. I never thought about college until I needed to think about college, which is senior year. Um,
As we do.
Yep. And I know a lot of kids were applying for, arts schools or state schools too, because, state schools have a lot of, funding for their programs or whatever the case may be. But a lot of people were going for like NYU, Berkeley College of Music, which we'll talk about. I did end up going there eventually, but some people stayed local in Miami. I was one of those. I got my associate's degree in Miami. But yeah, it's just people were just thinking like, how do I now keep my art going?
Right.
Although you have the group of kids who did this for a time but realized like it was fun for the time, but now I'm going to pursue something else. And then you had a handful of students that were like, okay, I love this and I'm going to pursue it 100%. So there were some people who even just said, I'm going to, because obviously they could, New York or Los Angeles to just pursue, not really continue education, but like they had connections elsewhere.
Hmm.
So they went for that. And that was really like the process in that 12th grade in the art school. It was really, they talked to you a lot about like how to prepare for your life out of New World. Because it's very easy to get caught up in the environment. So like get caught up like high school and this is our world and like it's never going to end. And, people really got stuck in that mentality until you don't.
I mean, that's classic art school.
Yeah.
Not, cause I didn't, I've never attended any sort of length of that sort of environment, but yeah, again, thinking about like actors specifically is like you do theater and you do this and that and you're always doing shows and you have that community, and then when it comes to an end and you have to face life, you're like, wait a second.
I wasn't ready
And
for
then
it.
sometimes school seems to like going to college is almost like you said, if trying to find the excuse, not the excuse, trying to find any way possible to keep this going.
Right.
College is a continued similar environment, and it's still you step up in a way where you're challenging yourself in new ways,
Absolutely.
but it could get repetitive in the way of like college comes to an end too.
Absolutely. Yeah, you kind of get stuck in a loop. It's you're searching for the next, I guess, community. Because at the
Hmm.
end of the day, besides being a musician, everybody just wants to feel connected to something or be a part of something. I feel like when you don't have that, we kind of lose ourselves a little bit. We kind of get lost, and this goes for anyone. If you don't feel like you're a part of something, whether it's a community or just a small group of people or whatever the case may be, you do feel kind of lost, and that's very common in the world of art. This arts world.
I thought you were going to say just in the world.
Well, I mean, it's very common in the world, but
Yeah,
especially
yeah,
common in
yeah,
the arts world,
for sure.
because this is if you think about it, we're in the industry of connecting with people. That really is the industry. It's not really like, hey, I do music. It's like, why do you do music? Oh, because it connects all these people. Why do you do acting? Oh, well, we create worlds for people and we connect with people. So at the end of the day, connection is the key, word for arts, I believe. And you can easily get stuck in that cycle where you go to an art school. It's like, you don't want this to end. Go to college, you don't want this to end. And now after college, people are like, okay, now I'm going to go to a graduate program. And then you
Right.
do that route. And then once you figure out that, like, after the graduate program, it's like, okay, now I really need to step my foot into the real world. That's where it can get a little scary. But yeah, it's definitely a mental game too. You really have to know where you are mentally and really gauge yourself as you're growing up. I was very conscious of all that stuff growing up. So for me, the transitions between each of them, each of the different, time period, it didn't really affect me that much because I already knew it was coming. I didn't really hide the truth from
Yeah,
myself.
it didn't come to a surprise. You weren't
Yeah.
okay. Yeah. All right. So at the same time, you said that you weren't thinking about college till senior year.
Yeah.
So here you are as a senior. What's the plan? What are you thinking there?
So
And what
my
happens?
plan was, wow. My plan was not to go too far because even though I did,
Geographically?
yeah, geographically, I like to stay in Miami because I just wasn't sure how to use my talent in the real world yet.
Hmm.
So I was kind of like on and off about, like, should I go out for college? Should I stay here? So I just decided to stay, living with my parents. I ended up going to my community college, Miami-Dade College, and I got my associate's degree in music business because I felt like I was pretty solid in my music, foundation and writing, but I didn't know anything about the business because people would talk about, like, hey, royalties and PROs and all these different things, and I'm like, what? And they're like, yeah, you got to know that stuff. So I thought it was very important to know that, and I
Yeah.
got my first degree on it.
Yeah, no, that makes, I mean, that that aligns directly with what you were saying about, like, how do I connect my skills to the real world, and the missing link is the business aspect of it.
Yeah, the bread and butter
Yeah,
of it
kind
all.
of kind of the is just as important, if not more important.
Yes,
Yeah.
you gotta be able to sustain yourself.
Hmm.
I would recommend anyone doing music or coming up in music, high school, middle school, even middle school, to, like, start touching upon topics of the music business because 90 to 95% of what artists do is business, and then the rest of the percentage, 5 to 10, is your talent because who is what eventually is going to get you to whatever position you want to get in. But just also protecting yourself, through contracts because there's a lot of, you know, sketchy business from
Sure,
time to
sure.
time. You want to try to avoid that, but also just for yourself, peace of mind, just knowing what you're getting yourself into. And if you don't know, also have the knowledge on who to go to because a lot of people would be like, "Hey, I asked my friend, and this happened." I'm like, "You don't really go to a friend for that. You go to a lawyer, or."
Yeah, it's like, don't worry, Jonathan, this is a really good deal, and just sign on the dotted line right here, and we'll take care of you.
Yeah,
It's like,
so I fell in love with the idea of learning the business inside out and getting my hands on some templated contracts, standard practices, standard deals, what's a good deal, what's a bad deal, and why. I don't like just people telling me, "Oh no, that's a bad deal." It's like, great, but why? Keep going. I'm interested. So I fell in love with that, and I noticed it when I did this music business program because I was like, I don't want to study music in college again. I want to study something a little bit that'll give me a little bit more skills, just skill set in general. And I just thought the music business was the way to go. And I'm glad I did it because I did learn a ton of things that I didn't know. And potentially it saved a lot of, you know, the hurdles that I could have gone through.
Yeah.
Because I did have to go through contracts eventually.
Yes. Okay. So do you mind gracing us with a couple of nice tidbits that you didn't know that we might not know that could be interesting to for us to consider as we.
Sure. So, as a musician, one thing you want to really pay attention to, or at least start getting familiar with, is royalties. Royalties essentially is our uh, cool and scary way of saying our retirement. Um, because
Ooh.
if we don't have royalties, then essentially we're only getting paid for the job. And we have nothing else to show for that except what you got up front and maybe the credit. But we also need to sustain ourselves, and royalties are the only thing currently that can really help us sustain ourselves. Because, and if you don't know what a royalty is essentially you write any kind of music, you stick it in film, TV, and if it reruns on TV networks, or if it streams, or if they buy a physical CD copy, or whatever the case is, you get royalties off of every single one of those reruns, repeats, restreams, or CDs bought. And essentially, those, the more popular you get as an artist, those start to add up. And every quarter, you sign up with a PRO. So a PRO is Performing Rights Organization. So we have BMI, ASCAP, and CSEC. And you sign up for one of those companies, and those companies actually keep track of it all. Once you registered it into the system, you could either do it individually or whatever company or production company you're working with does it. And essentially, they keep track of it for you. So if, let's say, you had a song on an HBO show, you'll see every quarter a statement saying, hey, you earned this much because your song played this many times for this many seconds, and here's your check.
Mhm.
So those two things I would say pay the most attention to when you're young, is because that is essentially, like I said, it's our retirement kind of plan.
Yeah, yeah. So how and that gets negotiated at what step is that's at the very beginning, right? Is that
As soon as possible.
Mhm.
I would say as soon as possible, sign up for those things because even if you play live shows at bars and gigs, you're entitled money if you didn't know that. Not money from the bar owner. I'm talking about money from the PROs because the PROs, every bar or business that plays live music or has music in the building, they have to pay a license to use this music.
Right.
So that license that you pay, you're actually paying it to the PROs to give to the songwriters of the people who created that song, and that's a form of royalty. So I played some of my original music in some bars and clubs in Miami, and I got royalties because I said, "Hey, I performed live these songs. I played it at this date for this amount of time, and the next quarter came in, and I got a check. It wasn't a whole lot,
Sure, sure.
but definitely you saw some money from that.
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
you have to know this early on, I would say.
And what's the I don't know, but how what's the expect royalties um what kind of expectation is there on how how does that even work? Like what if I'm an artist and I write a song tomorrow and I get a deal and I'm trying to negotiate royalties, I'm assuming there should be like some sort of agent attached to me that's kind of helping negotiate this. But what kind of percentages? How does yeah? I don't know how this. What do we?
So it's a little tricky, but I'm gonna try to explain the most like user friendly as
Sure,
possible.
sure.
But royalties works using a percentage of 200 actually. So 100% goes to the publisher, so who actually owns the music, and then 100% goes to the writer, or it could be split between writers. So if there's multiple people, but essentially the music business game is about who owns the copyright of the publishing of the song. So the way you make money off of royalties and the way you're kind of like going into it, if you're an independent artist, you don't have to worry about a publisher because no one's really representing you. You're your own
Okay.
artist, you're your own manager. So in that case, you would receive 200% of whatever it is that you're making. And the rates, it would depend on what it's placed in. So if it's on TV and it's primetime HBO, we're talking about a hefty amount of, or a hefty rate. But if we're talking about like just a regular TV show that it's not really that popular on a not so well known network, you'll get a lower rate. Same thing goes with performances. You're gonna get a lower rate if you're not a well known artist. But
Sure,
if you're a
sure.
higher known artist, you're going to see more of it because you're going to be doing more shows or more people are going to be doing covers of your songs, things like that. But essentially, again, you don't really need representation for this. It's more of you need to know it yourself so that you can also make sure that if you are being represented, you're getting a fair amount of royalties. But yeah, it's a very tricky game because it's really a game about like who owns the music. So like if let's say you were my publisher and I'm the artist, you're going to get 100% of the royalties. I'm going to get 100% of the royalties, but I don't have rights to sell my music anywhere. You do.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a tricky game, and who you end up giving your song to, so a publisher, you want to make sure that you have either a good relationship with the person or that you trust their brand and that they're going to promote you as an artist in the most, organic way and to really trust in your work. But again, it's a very hard to put a single definition to
Sure,
that.
sure.
But definitely, if you want to learn more about it, just go on YouTube. You can search up, even go to BMI. They have a lot of resources on their website, bmi.com, and they can answer any of your questions. You can also give them a call and they'll answer any questions you want. But yeah, it's a very, again, just tricky
Yeah.
little situation there. But
Just make sure you get
just make
royalties on
sure
your
you get
stuff.
royalties. Yeah, make sure you at least get 100% of the writing portion, a
Hmm.
writer share. Because if you're working on bigger projects, most likely you're not going to own the publishing. You're going to own just 100% of the writer share. Don't give away your writer share, because if you do, then that's what we're talking about, the retirement plan.
Yeah.
You'll lose out on a lot of money that could potentially, you know, help you in a tight spot in the future. You don't know.
Yeah, just life.
Yeah.
Just life. Okay, cool. All right. Yep. Royalties. Learning
Royalty is
learning
fun.
that. Learning that. All right. So you stayed local. You stayed in Florida. You went to the community college. You studied up on the business side.
Yes.
Um, yeah. I'm assuming you stayed creative through that aspect too, still writing and performing, and I don't know, were you going back leaning more on the guitar side and doing that, or how much of the trumpet did you leave behind? Like how did
Yeah, funny. I actually left trumpet completely. I stuck to guitar. I made a little band with some of the kids out in my extracurricular school. I'm referred to as ASM because that was the name of the school. Um, but it's no longer in Miami, and I don't know if it still exists now because there were four schools, and the main one was in Cooper City in Florida. But yeah, the school is called ASM, and some of the kids who went there, I made a band with them, and we stayed creative during that time, writing songs, and we performed our songs, and had an album, put it on streaming, but we took it all down because the band we didn't keep going, so everything just got taken off, and everybody kind of went their own ways, but we did stay very much creative during that time. And then I kind of ventured off and created like my solo work after all of that because I was still very much interested in continuing my musical journey. But while I was studying in college, I wrote my solo album, and I released it, put it out. I was actually able to perform at the college auditorium to debut the album, and it was great. It was fun. Again, after all that happened, I did end up taking it down again because of production reasons. It wasn't the best sounding work, and
Uh-huh.
my stuff. I really wanted it to have the best possible platform for it. So I'm hoping to like remaster it soon. But I don't know how soon because again I'm stuck more involved with the film business now too.
Yeah.
But we'll get to that in just a second. But yeah, I did stay for the most part creative, and my fiance was actually one of the singers in the group too. And still with her. She's awesome.
Great. Yeah.
So yeah, that was kind of like the college experience there.
Cool. I got distracted with these photos
I know.
above us
Once you
here. This
notice,
is
you
cool.
can't stop looking, right?
Okay. So all right, there was the band phase, the solo phase. And when you're saying solo, is this instrumental specifically, or are you also a vocalist? I forget.
No, I wish I could sing. I could
Okay,
do
right.
backing vocals, so like I can hold a pitch, but I can't like be the main dude. I wish, but it's solo work, so it's instrumental,
Mm-hmm.
and pretty much everything was digital. I didn't design it, but
Oh,
everything was I made on the computer using Logic, the program, and I created. I used their drum sounds, their bass sounds, and some of their string sounds, and the only thing live was my guitar.
right.
So it was literally like solo project. Like
Yeah, yeah,
it was just me
yeah.
in my room and a laptop and go.
Totally doable.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So you put that out, and then you and then you pulled it back.
Yes, I did. The album was. It's called Soundscape. Um, because I was the concept of that album was to create a world of itself, excluding the guitar stuff. I really just wanted to create an atmosphere, a world that when you listen to it, it's like a full experience from beginning to end. It was a really great album, and again, I'm really trying to find the inspiration again to work on it and release it again. But there are, if you search up Soundscape Jonathan Munoz on YouTube, you could see my single. So I did like a playthrough
Yeah.
video of it. So you could find that there.
Okay.
All the other songs are with me now. So I'm not sure you could
Gotcha.
find
For
that.
now.
But
For
for
now.
now, for now.
Okay. All right. So did you? I'm trying to. Okay. I'm trying to figure out on timeline wise.
Sure.
You did the solo. You pulled it back. What did you pull? I'm trying. Did you go to? Was this when you went back to? You went to college and then you pulled it back, or was it before you even went to college, or what's? How
This
did?
was all inside of college.
Okay.
So the
All inside of
band was
college.
inside of
Gotcha.
college.
Okay.
The solo stuff was inside of college.
All right. So we just glossed over college here. All right.
Yeah. So yeah, I
Yeah.
I really packed a lot of things in like the little. I guess you could call them phases because
Yeah.
elementary, middle, high school, college, they're all
Yeah,
different
yeah,
phases.
it's natural phases.
But I had a lot of things going on in each phase.
Yeah,
So just wanted to keep busy and do what I wanted to do, which was music.
100%. That's you're doing. From my perspective, it feels like you're doing everything that you should be doing and more.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, because again, I'm just thinking about film. It's like if you're going to film school, don't just don't just do the projects that are being assigned to you. You have so many creative people around you. Just do the additional stuff and get that your own personal extra credit.
Absolutely.
For sure, and you were doing all that, so that's awesome to hear about. Okay, when we are currently in the year 2022,
That's it.
It's very exciting. You graduated as that you graduated from college. Yeah, you graduated from college. When was this? Was this
So this was 2015 to 2018.
okay? 2018. So it's been it's been a little chunk since then.
Yeah. It's been 4 years. I took a year off. So the entire 2018 when I graduated 2018 of December. 2019, the entire year I took it off from school. And I worked as a guitar professor at a conservatory called Stage Masters, also in Miami. And I taught for the entire year. But then down the line comes 2020. That's when I started Berkeley. And now let me tell you how I got into that because that was interesting.
Yes.
So it was September of 2019, and I was kind of thinking like, okay, I'm teaching. I've been doing it all this year, and I've been doing it for a long time because, like I said, at like age 11, 12, I do substituting for my professor when he wasn't there, and eventually, I just kind of thought, hey, I maybe could do this to rack up some cash and see what I do after this. And September 2019. I said to myself, I need to do something. I need to do something else. I need connections. I need to move. I just need to do
Yeah,
something.
you were
I'm
feeling you were
trapped.
feeling yeah.
So I spoke to my fiance, my parents, and Berkeley came up, and I was just like, you know what? I think I'll give it a shot. Still was hesitant, but it wasn't until I actually heard the story of Pinar Toprak, who's a composer who she came from Turkey, and she scored Captain Marvel. She's the first woman who scored a film and it grossed over $1 billion.
Okay, okay.
So very successful now. She's done the music for Fortnite. You could research it. She's amazing. But I heard her story and how she wanted to come from Turkey to Boston because she wanted to study at Berkeley because she loved film music and she wanted to follow the steps of her heroes. And the story inspired me because it was a struggle for her to get over here to kind of like situate herself here. And I just thought to myself after listening to that, like, I'm in the States in Miami. I'm
Yeah,
complaining it's
you're
hard.
already in the time zone over here. Yeah.
Exactly. Like, I don't, what am I complaining about? Like, let me just do it. I should feel way more grateful, way more um, grounded, I guess. But I thought and I pondered it and I was like, you know what? Let me do it. I'm going to follow her because her story inspired me. It really did. And it made me audition for Berkeley. So it was September 2019, I submitted all the application work to kind of get the audition. They were like, hey, we don't have slots for the spring semester. You're going to have to wait for either summer or fall. And I was like, no worries. It was meant to be, don't worry about it. Cool. They reached out like 2 days later, like, hey, next Friday is someone dropped out. Yeah, I know it's tight, but do you want to still take the audition? And I was like, let's do it. So I only had a week to prepare all of my audition material. Thankfully, since I was working in a conservatory, my music theory was fresh because I'm teaching it to all these young, aspiring musicians. I was keeping up with all of my chops as a guitar player. So I was like, a week is not bad because it was in shape.
Yeah, and plus you've been in the pressure cooker enough times at this point too. Yeah.
Exactly, yeah. So this was my second big audition ever. I say big, but I mean they are
It's
huge.
big.
They're
It's
huge.
big.
They're
It's
huge.
big.
I'm not gonna lie.
Let's not talk it down. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. I did it online, so they I just remoted in from Miami. Thankfully, I didn't
Okay.
have to travel up to Boston.
Yeah.
Um, and I did the audition, and everything went well. I nailed it, and they offered me a scholarship to go.
Okay. Well, that's okay.
Yeah.
Congratulations. So when you say you nailed it, was this an after the fact once you heard the good news, you're like, I nailed it? Or was it after you hit stop on the thing, you're like, I
It was
nailed it?
after I stopped the thing because I already understood the audition process already. I already knew how things were going. And I just had a gut feeling in the inside. I was like, I nailed it, because
Okay, awesome.
not because of it's an ego thing. It's because I knew that I did everything the best way I knew how.
Yeah, yeah.
So I went off of that, and I was like, you know what? I did it. I nailed
Okay.
it.
Yeah. Okay, great. That's awesome.
Yeah.
No, I hear lots of stories about how like I didn't nail it. Like all the self-doubt comes in and
Sure.
then you get the call and you're like, "Wait, I did it." Like that there's that, but it's good that you knew that you
Yeah,
gave
I,
what you
I
had.
I
Yeah.
gave it everything I had.
Yeah.
I didn't hold back. Again, from not knowing what my life was going to be like in the next years, or next 4 years or so, or 3 years rather, um, till that moment that I was auditioning, I just kind of said, you know what, I threw everything I could. So to me, it was a solid audition. Whether I made it or not, obviously I ended up making it, thankfully. But
Yeah.
whether I made it or not, I was happy with what I gave.
Yeah, yeah.
So
That's important.
yeah.
That's awesome. Okay. Great. Cool. All right. So
Sure.
yeah, you got the thumbs up. And I know so cuz you like you said that you wanted to stay local when you finished high school, something inside of you was like I don't want to venture out into the world. Yeah, I'm not ready. But now you overcame it through everything that you went through there with hearing about the Turkish composer and
Yes.
yeah. So now at this point you get the thumbs up and it's immediate like you're taking it, right? Like that's
Absolutely.
yeah,
I spoke to my fiance. So she's the first person I kind of like told my plan to.
as you should.
And yeah. And I told her, I was like, I'm gonna do it. If I didn't get awarded the scholarship, I probably wouldn't have.
Mm-hmm.
But since I did, I was like, not everyone gets this opportunity. Again, just being humble and grateful for everything, and I was just like, I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna do whatever it takes to
And
take that path.
you knew the scholarship, was that something that you knew was that did you also apply for that or how did that work?
No, so for every audition that you do in Berkeley, they automatically consider you for the scholarship.
Okay.
But it depends on how you do in your
Gotcha.
audition.
So they might be like, "Hey, you're in." However,
Ye-
but for you, it was the thumbs up on both sides.
Correct.
We
Yes.
want you, and also you qualify for the scholarship.
Yes. It was a partial scholarship, but it still was a good chunk of money. Um, so I did that, and just kind of backtracking,
Sure.
because film composing. How'd I get into
Yeah,
that?
here we are.
It happened before auditioning for Berkeley. So this actually happened the year I graduated from my first degree. Um, 2018. I got super sick. Funny story. I got super sick.
Really funny.
Um, and the doctor told me like I need to be on bed rest because I got acute bronchitis. How? I have no idea, but I did. And he said you have to be on bed rest, try not to sit up too much, and take, a Buterol to open up your airway. Like, I was bad. Like, I had a hard time breathing and everything. It wasn't like life or death situation, thankfully, but it was pretty bad. Um, but that happened, and I was like, okay, I want to play guitar or like do something musically creative, but I can't sit down because like the moment I would get up, I'd feel like very heavy. So I just went out to Sam Ash, my local, music store, and I bought a keyboard that I could connect to my computer, and I just started messing around with sounds. And I was like, this is interesting. I like this, and I started messing around with like string sounds, like orchestral stuff. And I was like, this is pretty cool. And I just had a change of hearts at that moment. I was like, you know what? Maybe film music isn't so bad. It seemed to be a lot more my speed too, because I quickly found out that the music business, like touring and not being home for a while, like that wasn't for me. I'm a very homebody. I like being at home. I like spending time with my family, friends, and just wanted to stay home and do what I love to do, even though the job occasionally, but not the same as touring. it does offer like time to leave. But that happened, and I decided to create a reel. And then 2019, which is my gap year, I graduated from college. My gap year, I was doing my portfolio stuff. I was able to work on some short films and trailers and stuff to build up my portfolio. And then right before going into Berkeley or auditioning that same year, 2019, I already had a portfolio of like things that I've done in film scoring. It wasn't anything too serious, but it was something that I wanted to pursue because I went to Berkeley for film scoring. I
Okay.
didn't go to Berkeley for like performance or guitaring. I went for film scoring. So like I knew what I was doing at that point,
Yeah.
which is why Pinarto Prac came up because I was just following the film composing route, things
Yeah.
like that. So
Thanks for reclarifying all
yes,
that.
yeah, yeah. We kind of missed that little spot there, but that was the big pivotal point where I was like, I want to be a film composer, and which drove me to make all of these decisions. Because I knew people in the music business, but even though it's still music, they're completely different industries, film and music. So I had to like almost relearn everything I knew about business, even though the concepts are the same, but just things are to work differently, different practices and stuff. But yeah, that propelled me to go to Berkeley, and I went to Berkeley already with a portfolio. So I've done again a few trailers, a few short films, and that also helped me in my application to receiving the scholarship because there is a portion where we communicate with one of the academic advisors or someone there who's in charge of like seeing like, okay, you're great as a musician, but now let's see how you are from a personal standpoint.
Okay. Yeah.
So they want to see your attitude, your goals. Same thing that happened at New World. It seems to be a standard practice for auditions.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um,
We want good people in our facilities here. Yeah.
exactly. It doesn't take to be a great, talented musician if you're not a
Yeah.
great
If you're an
person.
asshole. Yeah.
Yeah. So you want to probably consider that too as you're going throughout this career. And yeah, so that happened, and here we are, 2020 January, and I start Berkeley. Um, as
Yeah. We
everybody
know.
knows,
Yeah. We know.
pandemic
Mhm.
happened. The pandemic happened, and my first semester at Berkeley, I only lasted a month in school before they booted us all out, and now I'm stuck in Boston in my basement apartment with my fiance in lockdown, doing school remotely. And that was an interesting time period because I went to Boston and arranged everything. Mind you, it was September 2019, and I started school January 2020. You can only imagine how hectic it was for just 3 months or 4 months or something like that to gather everything, break down everything. Not only I'm going, but my fiance is coming with me. We're
Yeah.
moving to
Yeah.
Boston. It was insane. The move was insane. We fit everything into a van and drove to Boston. Um, I didn't even think I had time to react like how I felt. Like at that point I was like completely like screw my feelings right now. There's a goal.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I didn't feel fear. I didn't feel nervous. I just had a goal.
Yeah. You're like, I gotta get there.
I
And
got to
here.
get
Yeah.
there.
Yeah.
I already did everything I could, and everything is in order. We got to do this. So we get there, and of course, no one planned it, but pandemic happened, and now that's when I first was able to sit down and just ask myself, what did I just do? It was so scary. Now I'm starting to get like the fear, getting nervous because I was supposed to work at the school, to obviously pay for rent, do all these things. Or living on our own for the first time. She was living with her parents. I was living with my parents. It's the first time we move, and we're moving out of state.
It's a lot. It's a lot.
So I just didn't know how to handle
And
it
the
all.
pandemic,
And a pandemic. So it's like, whoa, we got through it.
to say the least.
Yeah, we got through it, thankfully. But it was a time where I really had to put my foot down and say, now I really need to get serious about this because this is life and there's nothing I could do but go forward. So in Berkeley is where I met my mentor. His name is Sean Peter Hagen, and he is a composer as well. He's been in the film business for a while now, and he was the one who kind of helped me out and said, "Hey, I'll take you under my wing because I believe in your work." I've showed him my work, and he was very pleased with what he heard. And he was the one who kind of fit me into the TV world, the network world, and it's where I got my first, History Channel credit. I'm working on shows HBO, Showtime, History Channel, Oxygen, things like that.
Yeah.
But it was through him by going to Berkeley.
Yes, and this was in. So you were kind of. Were you like an assistant to him, or what? How does that relationship work? Is he the like head I don't even know
Yeah,
what the
sure.
credits
So
are.
I met him at Berkeley. So he actually works at Berkeley as a staff. He as of right now he's the dean of online, Berkeley Online. But at the time he was the dean of the Career Center. So
Yeah,
essentially, the Career Center is the group of people at Berkeley who help you with your life after Berkeley.
sure.
And he was the dean, and I made a couple of appointments with him because I noticed he was a composer as well, and I just wanted advising.
Okay.
So everything just kind of like
So, okay.
toppled over each other, and it all happened in that short 1 month that I was my first semester. This all happened within that first month.
Okay.
I was very
But
active
before
in searching
that's
for the opportunities. Yeah.
100, it's great. Good on you.
Yeah, so that happened, and I did 2 meetings in person with him before they kicked us out. And then after spring break, our last meeting, which was online, obviously, he was like, "You know what? I see your discipline. I see your work. Um, I'll, I'm willing to be your mentor, essentially. Like,
Okay.
come work with me, and I'll show you how things work
Yeah.
in my field." And that's when I, started getting on Zoom calls, and like he would show me his screen, and he would be composing something, and I'd be like, "Oh, so that's how you do that. Oh, so that's how you do this."
Mhm.
And essentially, what I would do there is I would compose. So my call it an internship, call it
It's
whatever, an
just some
apprenticeship,
yeah,
whatever.
that's a good one. I like that.
Yeah.
That's a good one.
But essentially, I was composing, writing music, and we would submit music together, and he would look at it and be like, "Okay, that's green light,"
Okay,
or "Hey,
sweet.
go back
Yeah.
and fix this," and you'd beat it back and forth like that. So I did that for my lockdown, and that essentially was like what kept me working throughout the pandemic, through all of this. So we did that, and it quickly became a really great relationship with him. So like we text each other all the time, or most times, because now he's a little bit more busy with his new position at Berkeley. But we still keep in touch. We still work together, and we still write music together. Um, but yeah, that was the kind of like the transition between, on top of doing Berkeley, of course, like academic stuff and homework and all that. I was working with him, and that's when I really got my foot into the professional world of composing.
Yeah.
A lot of
Great.
stuff, right?
Great. That's
I know.
wonderful. That's wonderful. Oh my word. Okay. So now uh let's see, what can we touch on here? So we I was gonna joke about how, all right, now, great, we got the background down, and the show's coming to an end here soon.
All right.
No, it's awesome. I mean, it's yeah, I guess it's. I love hearing
Absolutely.
the
We
origin
could
story.
kind of move along to what's happening present time,
Yeah,
just to
no,
kind
for
of.
sure. So yeah, I mean, you've made your way to Los Angeles. Um, I don't know. Yeah, what do you? You know,
Sure. So my goal here, I just graduated Berkeley, so I just graduated now May 2022, and now I moved out. I'm sorry, not May 2022. I lied. It was like May 5th or something, and I moved out here May 20th.
it's close enough.
So it's
Close enough.
close enough. And I've been out here for, what is it, 4 months?
Yeah.
4 months or so. And
Yeah.
I've just been connecting with everyone who I've reached out to before, who I've worked out with, here, me being on the East Coast, but worked with people in LA. and I've reached out to a lot of people who I've just been connecting with, and obviously still reaching out to more people because this is an industry of connection. You,
Relationships.
relationships. You really want to connect with everyone that you're working with, and people who potentially you want to work with, or just friends in general. Because also, you don't want to just be like, hey, I just want you for a gig. You know what I mean? Like actually create friendships and relationships with the people that you're working with. That's a super important business, super important part of the business.
Building
Um,
friendships, a very important business. Just kidding. No,
yeah.
uh,
But I mean,
yeah,
of
yeah.
all people being in the arts, but yeah, just doing that. And I know when I got here, my first month, we went out and we sat at a coffee shop and we spoke about, and we were able to work on a small project together. So that was really awesome, being fresh to the city and just kind of getting
Yeah.
situated. But yeah, I have two feature films lined up. I have two short films also lined up for the end of the year. So just keeping busy on that, and just again connecting.
Yes. Great.
Yeah.
I guess I don't know if we can. Yeah, because we met up. I had um one project that I talked to you about that we had like it was like came together last minute. We had a lot of fun doing it and had some great visuals and great. It was like
A fun
a
project,
fun
yeah.
nice little short, and I was freaking out about how the thing was gonna like the score and the music and stuff, and luckily we were able to make it work and connect on that. And I'm excited to release that. That's
Yeah.
called What Had Happened Was.
Very awesome.
And yeah, no, thanks for coming on for that. It was awesome to
Yeah,
have.
it was also our first time. I mean, like it was the first time us speaking in person together, and then it was our first time, just kind of working
Yeah,
together,
just
just in general.
early
Yeah,
feelers for sure.
exactly. And it came out great. I'm really happy with what it came out. The production was great. It was a really fun project to just again, start building this relationship, friendship, call it
Friends? Are we
friends.
friends?
I think we are. We just made it official.
Jeez, that's funny. Okay, well, yeah, all right. So there's that. Let's see. I know. I just wanted to touch on. I think you have mentioned at some point. Okay, so we talked about the importance of relationships. Can you talk a little bit about how you weigh what your thoughts are on like accolades versus relationships, on how you maybe approach what you do or how you choose what you're going to work on, or yeah, how to progress? Is it I don't know that whole
Sure.
thing.
So I really don't look at any accolades. I don't, as you can see, there's a lot of things that we've talked about that I was kind of like, oh yeah, I did play for the Prince of Spain or whatever. Like,
Right,
there's a
right,
lot of those really high points, which I should speak more about because they are very big accomplishments in my life. But I just don't feel the need to like, just kind of say it sometimes because for me it's really just about the process and like the meeting of the people and the connecting, but mainly what I really strive for is just working with cool people, and already just doing that, it's less of a burden.
right.
um, as being in the film business, you know how hard it could be sometimes working with people who just you don't click with. And it doesn't really necessarily make them a bad person. It's just that sometimes personalities clash. And that's just something you really can't control. And then you have other times where people are just outright just mean. So you also
Sure.
got to, set some boundaries with that. But I mainly strive for working with cool people. um, Obviously, in my part, when I'm meeting new people, showing them what I can do because that's very important. You got to know that you could do the job, and also making the person that I'm connecting with confident that I am the right person to do the job. I don't want them to feel like, oh, is he gonna deliver or is he not gonna do this? Not gonna. I don't like giving people that feeling or just like that question at all to pop into their mind, because I really want people to understand that like I'm in it because I'm serious about the game, but I'm also in it because I am serious about like helping and just being a part of a team and being a collaborator just as a whole. Again, accolades to me, I don't
Yeah.
think they really mean anything, because to me, the biggest accolade is like if I can touch another person in a mental way, spiritual way, or
Emotional,
whatever,
yeah.
emotionally. I feel like then that's the biggest accolade. Just really
That's
connecting.
so sweet. That's so
Yeah, it's true. I
sweet.
really set my life out to be to helping people.
Okay, yeah, because you have a lot of experience with playing music in front of a live audience where
Yes,
you see immediately in front of you. Like maybe I don't know what people if you're looking out or if you sneak glances or how that works.
absolutely.
Yeah,
You
on how.
read body language. You
Yeah.
could see. I've played performances where you could see the person. I had a performance that there was this little boy. He can no more than like 7 years old. He was in the front row chair, and I was playing guitar, and I could just see his eyes. They were shining, and that made me feel so incredible, because at the end of the show, he walked up to me with his iPad, and his parents were behind him. He's like, "Can I take a picture with you?" And that was just like, that was big for me. That was huge. So that's the kind of reaction that I'm looking for. Nothing fills me up more than just that
Yeah.
reaction.
Yeah. No, that's awesome. It
Getting
warms
goosebumps
my
just talking
heart.
about
Warms
it.
my heart. How? Okay, I guess maybe winding down here a little bit, but how composing and film score is a little bit of a different venue space than playing live to playing an instrument live for somebody versus scoring a film and having them play accompanied to visuals
Right.
in a theater.
After the fact.
Yeah, way down the line is a little bit different. Do you have do you have much experience with being in a room with people experiencing your scores and stuff? Because I know you've done like TV and all that. That's people's
You don't even
homes
know.
and
Yeah.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
So yeah, my first film, The Last Cry, which is on Amazon Prime, directed by Sofia Pellegrino. We did two premieres. So there was one in Virginia and there was one here in LA. And both times I went, and I was kind of just watching and looking at people as they were watching the film. And although, a lot of it was like, the film obviously as a
There's a
whole,
lot going.
not
Yeah,
really, it's just the music, but like there's just so much going on at the same time. But everybody's reaction was just like, wow, it was amazing. The film was great. Everything was great, sounded great. But it wasn't until I came here to LA a couple months later, and we did the premiere here, where I actually felt the reaction towards the music side, because I even had people afterwards coming up to me and being like, whoa, like that was incredible music. We also did like a question and answer, so we had got to
okay.
sit up in front.
So
And
people got to clock you as like, hey, I'm the composer. They can come up to you after. Yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
so that was it kind of opened the door to people,
No, that's
kind of
awesome.
talking about it.
Yeah.
And through that, I got uh one of the feature films I'm gonna work on. So there
There
you
you
go.
go. That's how it
Connections,
goes. That's
connections.
how it works. Cool. Let me see if there's anything else last second here.
Absolutely.
Um, super basic, easy question here. Um, I'm on Instagram, which we'll talk. I mean, your tag is John Munn Studios.
John Munn Film
John
and
Munn
John
Film.
Munn Studios are my two social media channels. So the film one is my film composing, and the studios is my YouTube channel.
Okay. So your name listed under like you have Jonathan, but
Yes.
then on the logos and stuff like John Munn, you have the H on the John.
Yes.
And
Simply because I've always seen John written as John for short.
yeah,
I've really haven't started seeing Jon until like recently, believe it or not. So I just stuck with John as John.
Okay.
Yeah,
All
I
right.
know people get confused and they're
I
like,
got.
yeah.
So I was like, wait a second, and then I had to go look. I'm like, oh no, there is no H in your full name, but
Correct.
when you shorten it, you throw the H in there.
Yeah, I go by Jonathan Munoz. That's my artist name. That's my name for everything.
Yeah.
But for short and for Instagram, because I didn't want people to write Jonathan Munoz, I just kind of shrunk everything. And John Moon is kind of like people sometimes even call me John Moon. And the reason why you pronounce my last name Moon instead of Mun is because
Yeah.
my last name is Munoz, so Moon.
Yes. Thank
It's
you.
just the
Yeah.
pronunciation, but it's all the same thing. It's all cool. But yeah, one of them is film, the other one is YouTube.
Okay. Great. 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 Perfect. Yeah. I was just easy thing there. Cool. I think unless there's anything else on your end that we should have you talk. I don't know anything that I'm missing here that you'd like to
I
mention.
guess the last thing I could cover besides film composing is my YouTube
Okay,
channel.
yeah, sure.
So my YouTube channel is a channel that I developed to help people who aren't able to get like a formal education or like formal private lessons, and essentially I teach them music technology because everything is technology now. So if you don't know how to use technology, you're kind of stuck in the music world because people now are expecting you to know how to produce your own music, how to at least get a good demo to send to people. So not
Yeah.
having that part of it is very important. So I teach music technology, and I also teach like very basic music theory and things like that, and also gear reviews and how to use specific gear or whatever. And yeah, I think it's a great resource for people to check out if you're interested on how to use like
Yes.
Logic or Cubase, which are the main programs that I use. And I have ebooks for music theory stuff. So if you're having trouble with like scales, for example, I have a small ebook explaining what scales are, and people could just go in there. It's very I'm targeting the very like beginner
Yeah, beginner
level.
tutorials
Yeah,
in a
yeah,
way, yeah.
because I feel like that's really where you start to build the most important habits.
Right. 'Cause I mean, yeah, you build those foundational pillars, and then if they want to know more, they could always get in touch with you directly, and
That's it.
you're
All my information is up, and I'm sure the podcast
yeah.
will have everything either down below, up below. I don't know, up below.
We'll,
Wherever the information is going to be, we'll kind of write everything out.
we'll include the links. Yeah,
Yeah.
happy to. Okay, great. So, and then you have your. I guess while we're just okay, you have your website. Where did you plug that already? Did we say that? Did you?
No, I didn't say it, but I know it's a lot of information,
No, just
but
just plug that last, and then yeah.
yeah. So again, I have two websites because film composer and YouTube. But
Oh,
if you want to go to my film music website, it's jonathanmunozmusic.com. And my YouTube website is johnmoonstudios.com, where you can find digital courses. So I also do digital courses for people on my YouTube channel. And then there is also johnmoonstudios.creatorspring.com, which is the merch store where you can buy t-shirts, hats, and then the ebooks are also available for purchase there.
lovely. Okay, Jonathan, thanks for being on the show. I think that's it, everybody.
Thank you so much for having me. It's a great way to spend my day here.
Yeah, awesome. Cool. All right. Well, that's it. All right. Bye bye.
Have a good one, everyone.